Hi, my name is Ryan. I'm a tutor in the Econ Tutoring Center. Today I'm going to talk about the deadweight loss associated with externalities. So remember, externalities are something that occur when the market supply and demand curves don't fully capture the actual social cost or social benefit associated with a particular action. So today the example I'm going to be talking about is a factory putting toxins into the environment or something, right? So say that they're producing something, and as a byproduct of it, there's some waste that goes into a water supply or something that causes a cost to society, but that the firm doesn't directly incur unless the government, say, puts a tax on them or something like that to adjust for it. And then deadweight loss is the measure that economists use to decide the particular, societal effect of a particular policy or non-policy. So we typically measure social welfare in terms of producer and consumer surplus. So we just measure the change. Deadweight loss is really the loss in consumer and producer surplus associated with a particular policy or non-policy. So I'll go ahead and draw what this market that I just described a second ago looks like, right? So we have this firm, which are typical pricing quantity. We have a market supply curve, which sometimes we denote as a marginal cost curve. And the idea is that because there is some externality associated with this, it's that this market supply curve doesn't adequately reflect the cost associated with producing each one of these units, right? So we write that in terms of a social supply curve, or marginal cost curve, and we have our demand like usual, right? So the idea is that this distance right here is the external cost associated with producing each one of these units, right? So if I produce, say Q1 units, right, the firm pays this much, but society pays this much, right? And this difference is how much it costs society every time they put some of these toxins or whatever into the atmosphere or the environment or whatever associated with producing this good. So the idea is that if we just let the markets go on their own, that they will reach this societal equilibrium here, right? And this is like our Q market, this is our P market. But if we had, say, enforced this social supply curve, which is the socially optimal equilibrium, we would reach a point here, right? This Q social, P social. Right? And if you have any other questions about how externalities work, we have other videos that cover those. So this should be a refresher, but if you want to go take a look at how this works, you can definitely do that. So the idea is that when we're at this market equilibrium, right, in substance we're overproducing, if you recall, right? We have this many units past what the socially optimal equilibrium is, right? And for each one of those units, we are paying more than what society benefits from those units. So another way of writing demand is in terms of marginal benefit, right? So for each one of these units past this socially optimal equilibrium, this is how much it costs society. This is the societal marginal cost. And this is the societal marginal benefit, the demand, right? And so for each one of these units, there was a negative cost associated with producing it, right? Because the marginal cost for society was greater than the marginal benefit, right? And if we added all those up, we would get this box right here, right? And so that's the idea, is that society was overpaying for each one of these units. We were really paying in a region where our marginal cost exceeded our marginal benefit, right? This is where marginal cost equals marginal benefit, or supply equals demand. But we are producing too much, and this yields this blue triangle here, which is the deadweight loss associated with this externality. So I hope that clarifies for you exactly where externalities, if they're not properly accounted for, can lead to a deadweight loss, right? Because remember, if the government had gone in and said, okay, we're going to tax this good so that we end up at this equilibrium here, we don't have a deadweight loss. But if they don't, and they let the markets go, untaxed or whatever, and we're just at this market supply, then we end up with a deadweight loss to society. So like I said, I hope that clears things up for you. If you have any other questions about how externalities work, or deadweight loss, or any other questions regarding econ, come visit us in the Econ Tutoring Center.